What my grandmother taught me. Real English for real life. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Real English for Real Life podcast channel. If you're an English learner who's tired of boring textbooks and unnatural phrases, you're in the right place. In this episode, I'll tell you about a few everyday lessons my grandmother passed down to me. Not through lectures or speeches, but through daily routines, habits, and quiet example. Let's begin. My grandmother's house always had a distinct smell. Something like boiled barley tea, old wood, and fresh laundry. She lived in a modest home on a quiet street. The floor creaked when you walked across it, and the front door stuck in the summer when it got too humid. She kept her slippers neatly by the door, along with an umbrella that had been repaired with tape at least 3 times. Every summer when I was a child, my parents dropped me off at her place for a week or two while they worked. I remember being excited, not because we did anything special, but because I liked the way things felt there. Her house ran on routine. Breakfast was always early. Lunch was light. Dinner was never rushed. There was no TV in the main room. If we wanted entertainment, she told us to go outside or read something. And when it rained, she let me help fold laundry or snap green beans for dinner. Looking back, I realized she was teaching me things even when I didn't know it. She taught me how to rinse rice until the water turned clear and how to hang wet clothes so they dried without wrinkles. She didn't explain why. She just showed me once and expected me to remember. At the time, I didn't think much of it. I thought she was just old-fashioned. But now that I live on my own, I catch myself doing the same things. Folding towels in thirds, saving leftover rice in small containers, turning off lights when I leave the room. They're small habits, but they stuck. One time I asked her why she did everything so neatly. She said, because if you start the day right, the rest of the day goes better. She was never in a hurry, but she was always doing something. Sweeping the porch, watering the plants, preparing side dishes to store in the fridge. Every morning, my grandmother would sit at her small vanity table and brush her hair slowly. Maybe 10 or 20 strokes, not 100 like in the stories. She didn't wear makeup, but she always put on a clean blouse and a little face cream. Once I asked her why she dressed nicely even when no one was visiting. She said, "When you take care of yourself, you feel more awake." That sentence made sense to me later in life, especially on days when I didn't feel like doing anything at all. Sometimes just putting on clean clothes really does make the day feel a little better. My grandmother wasn't the hugging type. She didn't say "I love you" out loud, but she showed it in other ways. She always made sure there was something warm to eat when I visited. Soup with soft tofu or eggs cooked just the way I liked them. When I had a cold, she gave me warm tea with ginger. When I was nervous before going back to school, she tucked a small candy into my bag just in case. She remembered what I liked, and she paid attention. That was her way of caring. Not big words or big gifts, but quiet effort, repeated again and again. The last time I saw my grandmother, she had grown smaller. She was in her 80s by then and had started forgetting things. Not everything, but small details. Still, her routine remained. She still woke up early, folded blankets with care, and sat by the window with her tea. We didn't talk much that day. She asked about my job, and I told her it was busy. She nodded, then reminded me to rest on the weekends. Before I left, she said, "Don't work too hard. Nothing is useful if you're too tired to enjoy it." That was her Simple, practical, and usually right. Now, years later, I still think about her often. Not because of one big moment, but because of all the little ones. When I cook rice, I think of her hands. When I make my bed in the morning, I remember her folding sheets without saying a word. When I prepare a lunchbox for my own child now, I sometimes smile and think, this is exactly what she used to do. She didn't have degrees or diplomas, but she had a way of doing life that was gentle and intentional. And without meaning to, she passed that down to me. Now, let's take a moment to go over some of the vocabulary you might have been curious about while listening. Modest. Humble, simple, or not showy, small in size or amount. She lived in a modest home on a quiet street. Old-fashioned. Out of style or not trendy anymore, conservative, nostalgic. I thought she was just old-fashioned. She wasn't the hugging type. She wasn't naturally affectionate or physically expressive, especially with hugs. My grandmother wasn't the hugging type. That stuck with me. Something someone said was meaningful. A memory or experience had a deep emotional impact. A lesson or quote stayed with you. They're small habits, but they stuck. Without meaning to. Unintentionally, not planned or on purpose. And without meaning to, she passed that down to me. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, feel free to share it with someone who reminds you of home. Until next time, keep learning, keep reflecting, keep going.